Namaste, Hari Om. In this very special edition of the Oneness Dialogues, we have with us Swami Mitrananda, who will be speaking to us about the Supreme, the worldly, and everything between. Welcome, Swamiji.
Welcome, Smriti, to Chinmaya Tharangani. I'm glad you came here. I look forward for this discussion on Advaita philosophy. And it's a joy to talk about Shankara, Ekatma, Dham, vision of Sanatana Dharma. And I'm glad that we are close to the ocean to do this. Namaste.
Hari Om.
Hari Om.
So my question to you is, why the world is in dire need of Shankara today? Why we need more Shankaras?
My Guru, Swami Mitrananda, Gurudev said once, put your hand anywhere on the globe. Let's say there's a world map and put your hand anywhere on the globe, you will see there is a conflict. Why is there a conflict in this world? It is because we do not understand that the Creator and the created are one. When we see the Creator and the created as one, then we understand that everybody is part of one huge family and everyone is divine. Shankara brought this message out to the people that you and I are one. We are not two. So we are one huge human family, one huge family of all beings. So it just doesn't include humans, it includes birds and animals and everything. So we are just one huge family. If this feeling is there, conflict in the world will not be there. It is quite difficult these days to find someone happy. They are happy for a moment and unhappy most of the time. So, though we may say, have a nice day, and these people keep saying, have a nice day, you ask sometimes how. And they won't know how to have a nice day. So, it's just a slogan, have a nice day. How? They won't know. So, it's important for us to bring the philosophy of Shankara, which tells us the world is one. Whether it is the creator or the created, both are divine. And if this feeling comes, the feeling of oneness, then you will not hurt yourself. The conflicts in the world are there just because we are seeing only the differences. And all the differences are at the superficial level. When we go into the substratum, the superficiality will go away. There is a possibility the differences will go. So, the world which is not very happy, the world which has too many conflicts, Advaita Vedanta is the only solution, which can make us see that you and I are one, in a different form, in different shape, in a different name. But the substratum of you and I is one. This is what we understand. Nama Rupa, name and form will have difference. But the substratum on which this name and form play is one. So that Atman in you, in me, in everyone is one and the same. To understand and get the world more peaceful or more happy, you need Shankara probably in every country. Somebody like that. Or the best would be to find Shankara in every country is impossible. And particularly, let's say somewhere in the West, it would be hard. A Socrates came and they poisoned him. So to accept a wise person, so probably best would be create more Shankaras here and take his message across.
You very beautifully touched upon this message of Shankara and why we need it so much today. I would want to ask you why this message of oneness, this message of Shankara is timeless and why is it universal?
Truth is one, Satyam. is just one. And it existed from the beginning. It is existing even now. That which never undergoes any change in the past, present and future is Satyam. So this truth existed at all periods of time. So the Atman was always there and will always be there, eternal. So this message of Shankara was timeless because it existed at the time of creation, but over a long period of time, as in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna himself says, over a long period of time, there are possibilities one forgets this. Then the culture and the system is such, it throws up a champion who comes back, shakes us up, wakes us up, puts us back on track. That way, when this knowledge which was existing so well, there are times when it goes slightly low, people are confused. Anything over a long period of time tend to get confused. So that way, when the systems got corrupt, Bharat was desperate to find someone. And at that time, this youngster from Kerala came and revived back the entire philosophy and started presenting it in such a way that his commentaries on the books like Bhagavad Gita, the Upanishad and the Brahma Sutra, the Prasthanatraya, became authority. Because that level of clarity and that level of commentary, you can pick it up, you can debate on it, but you can't prove him wrong. So logical and so powerful was his presentation that today he stands as an authority, Pramana, for Advaita philosophy. And since life existed from the beginning, this philosophy is about life. So it continues. So Shankara, who brought back our vision back to Advaita. Not that Advaita was not there before Shankara. It was there, but Shankara brought it back to us and made the commentaries what he wrote is indisputable. So therefore, his commentary also stood the test of time. Like Veda was there from the beginning. Now what he has written is also stood the test of time. And all seekers of Advaita Vedanta fall back to his commentary. So when we are interpreting something, we see if it is in line with what Shankara has said, then we accept it. So that way, Shankara has crossed the frontiers of time. Kala Atita. So that's him, like who's beyond time.
Right.
Yeah. Because what he spoke is beyond time. Obviously, he is also beyond time because he conveyed that which was beyond time. So he is also a Kala Atita.
Yeah. So that answered the first part of my question. I'll again go back to the later part of my question, that since Vedas to the modern saints, modern sannyasis, we have Advaita as an underlying philosophy, like a nectar of all these monumental scriptures. What do you think makes Advaita the nectar of all these philosophies?
See, Advaita philosophy, particularly the way in which Shankara took it up, discussed with other schools of thought, debated with other schools of thought. Be it Sankhya, be it Nyaya, Vaisheshika, Mimamsa, he debated yoga. He debated with all that and he proved very clearly why Advaita is. And something nice about our culture is the enlightened masters were all full of compassion. That's the underlining. So what is it? Compassion means basically love. Atman, the self, is all love. God is love, that's why we say. So these people who realized this truth, the enlightened people, were full of love. One expression of that love is compassion, Karuna. So they are Karuna Sagar. Out of compassion, they try to tell us that which is almost inexplicable through words. Really speaking, it is the poverty of the language to describe the truth. And yet these masters made attempts to explain. And in their compassion, they are all inclusive. So if you look at Vyasa's method of storytelling and writing, or Valmiki's method of recording history, in all that you will find their approach is to keep all inclusive. So they keep a primitive in mind and the sublime in mind of levels of seekers. So they address both the primitive and the sublime. So someone could be at an early stage of understanding God. He has to naturally see God separate, worship, pray. But as the person evolves, he would be guided, look at God within. Okay. So the primitive and the sublime are included. So that was their compassion. So if a primitive mind, early stage of spirituality, reads Ramayana, he will find enough of learnings from it. And if an advanced seeker reads the same Ramayana, he will find what he wants to go within. So it is this all-inclusive of primitive to sublime is Advaita. It is all-inclusive. If it is not inclusive, then it fails. Then something is left behind. So Shankara understood this so beautifully that a philosophy should be all-inclusive. So there are times where you need rituals. You need a form, worship. So whether it is rituals, he brought it down to a way in which we can do it easily at an early stage. And there are people who can meditate on the Lord with a form. He has written such lovely, inspiring bhakti slokas where you connect with the Lord at that stage of your growth with a form and you admire him and all that. And then he has also written content, predominantly, majority, which is of absolute sublime, formless God. Where he goes to that level, even if you take Nirvana Shatakam, where he says you're not the mind, you're not the body, you're not the sense organs, you're not the intellect, you're not memory, you're not ahankar, all that. And then he says, now Guru Naiva Shishya. The level he transcends, he says, at that stage of realization, there is neither space for Guru nor Shishya, all you have gone, there is just one. So the sublime, highest seeker is also included, and a beginner who need a ritual to do, primitive, is also included. This inclusive style, Valmiki adopted in his Ramayana, you will find. Vyasa adopted in his style. And Shankara, coming in the same parampara, has adopted the same style and brought in practical methods for an early stage seeker to the highest. This inclusivity shows the oneness. Otherwise, someone can be like, I can teach only God who is formless. All idols are not required. Now you are not inclusive. You understand? You have kept some level of seekers out, saying if you are worshipping form, you don't come here. I'm only formless. Then that doesn't work. That is not inclusive. Shankara's was like the primitive and the sublime include them. And he had the Shastra understanding, brought the depth and showed how a primitive guy can pick up Shastra and start practicing so that he evolves the next and the next and the next and reaches the highest, the sublime. So the highest seeker and the first step, primitive, both are included in Shankara's approach. And that was the Advaita, which existed even before Shankara. But slowly, like I told you, sometimes we forget and someone needs to come back and bring it back. And the person who brought it back beautifully was him. And now what he brought it back and gave it to us, there are so many masters after him, have almost institutionalized the method of teaching, and it is alive till today. Because Shankara himself showed by bringing up mutts to continue the tradition of all that primitive to sublime inclusivity. He brought mutts in strategic places across the country, and so that there is an institution which runs, takes care of it. In the same lines, many people, many masters who are not part of these mutts, but inspired by Shankara, have institutionalized this philosophy into different organizations and they bring. So it would be extremely difficult to find someone who is not part of the system which Shankara established. So most of them are part, or most of the teachers, I mean, most of the gurus, the paramparas, the acharyas, are all inclusive in that system. So that's why an Advaitin sees one, that there is no two, whether it is an ant or the creator, both are one and the same. So you need to include the early stage and the highest in your embrace. So you need to guide that guy to come to the next level and the highest to evolve to the final.
Okay.
So the first lap runners and the final lap runners are included by Shankara.
Wow, that was very beautiful. And you've briefly actually touched upon the pearls of wisdom we've had since times immemorial. There are two major contributions that you reflected in your answer right now. The Arsh Parampara, the parampara of thinking and making commentaries and reflections about the supreme truth and also the truth of yourself. But then he was someone who actually established structures, institutions to carry out this truth. You yourself are having this subtitle after your name, Saraswati, the Dasnami tradition, and the saints and their contributions. Can you please briefly reflect upon the contribution of sannyasis and how this entire monastic order and tradition have been taking this message forward in the modern and contemporary times?
Name some very ancient civilizations outside Bharat.
Greece.
Greek.
Yeah. Egyptian to be
Mesopotamia. Mayan.
Yeah, Mayan, right.
Mayan culture, Mesopotamian, Greek, Egypt. Very beautiful ancient culture. Chinese.
Yeah.
Lao Tzu,
Right.
Taoism,
Right.
Confucius. If you see, the world had great civilizations. Now, when the world had such great civilizations, for example, Mesopotamia, where is it today? We see them in the library books,
Yes.
or on the internet sites, but not living.
That is-
So about it, you read in a library or on the internet, but actually you don't find them living.
Hmm.
They're not there. They were ancient, they were beautiful. I have read some of the Egyptian culture. They're very close to Advaita, one aspect of it. Almost. And we were stunned when we were reading, this is what the Egyptians had once. And they were also worshippers of sun. Persians were also worshippers of sun. India also, you see sun.
Right.
That way, these were great civilizations, but all of them lost themselves. Some other culture took it over, it is gone, and today you have all those civilizations only in the books. They're part of history, not living. What was the difference? The difference is they did not have a parampara of teaching.
How? Good.
They did not have a parampara. One guru passes down to the next teacher, next student, and he in turn becomes a guru and he takes it to the next generation. Generation to generation, this knowledge which was imparted was this Guru Shishya Parampara. Bharat also would have been lost if that Guru Shishya Parampara, that sannyas order, if it was not institutionalized like what Shankara did, Dashanami.
Yes.
Now the knowledge which came somehow was surviving, but it would have been lost. So now he beautifully institutionalized it with 10 schools of sannyasi. Someone living in the mountains, Giri. Someone living in the forest, Vanam. Someone is in the world, Saraswati, teaching around. So he put them in different categories, and that institutionalized kept the parampara on. One teacher passes on to the next, and to the next, and to the next, and they have only expanded. So there are too many Puris, too many Giris, too many Saraswatis, too many Vanams. It goes on. So one teacher, when Shankara's vision of institutionalizing this, and that in turn continued with the parampara, whether it is Akada Parishad or whether it is Saraswati tradition, that continued. This parampara, which Shankara reorganized it. It was existing, but he reorganized it effectively, which continued, served Sanatana Dharma, and it's still alive. It's this parampara which other civilizations missed. They are dead. Here it is living because of this Guru Shishya tradition, which was so beautifully integrated, so beautifully institutionalized, and that we owe to Shankara. All of us are grateful because he's done it, and it went into that. That's why in many, many places where this was not there, went off. For example, Zen was a highly inspiring intellectual kick you get by understanding, and they also talk about truth. So when someone asked me about what is my opinion about Zen, I said he's a great grandson of Hinduism.
Yeah.
Hinduism, father, Buddha, son. His child later came, from Buddhism came Zen. So I said Zen is a great grandson of Hinduism. All inclusive, so we have no issues on that. But such lovely, inspiring thing didn't have a parampara. Because they did not believe in parampara. They took that which Shankara spoke about, na guru na eva shishya, which is meant for seat of meditation. In the seat of meditation, you need to transcend everything. But while living in Vyavaharik, you need to retain this, keeping that love and compassion in your mind for the next generation, you retain.
But
Those guys, what was meant to be only in the seat of meditation, they brought it to Vyavaharik and the paramparas were not there. So they lost. Because he set it up so beautifully, he institutionalized it, it worked and it is working and it will continue to work. This is where Bharat is different. Why Sanatana Dharma is still a living culture? It's because we have the parampara of it.
you very beautifully touched upon the parampara part of this entire timeless wisdom. It has been there and it is there. It is still prevalent, practiced in this country. What exactly encapsulates Advaita Vedanta?
In Vivek Chudamani, for a seeker who has to be in meditation, Shankara writes about 10-12 verses. And there's a book with 580 verses, but one portion which generally we tell all the students, and we were also told when we were students to memorize. And one of the slokas there is Jati Niti Kula Gotra Durakam Nama Rupa Guna Dosha Varchitam Desha Kala Vishayati Vartuyatam Brahma Tattvamasi Bhavayatmani. So look at this one verse covering. Like we started our conversation saying, there were conflicts. Anywhere you touch on the world, you see a conflict. What are these conflicts? Within nation, say if you look at, there's one huge universe. The human mind divides this universe into galaxies. The galaxy we stay is Milky Way. Our neighboring galaxy is Andromeda. It is one universe, but we have divided them into galaxies. And in that galaxies, there is this place where we live, is solar system. And in solar system, we have divided them into 9 plus planets. And then there is planet Earth. And this planet Earth, we have divided them into continents. And the continents, we have divided them into countries. The countries, we have divided them into states. And states, we have divided them into language, ethnic differences, districts. And then it comes to personal level of identity of a caste, creed, all this constitutes. Every identity creates a conflict with another identity. Because you identify with one as mine and you see the rest as separate from you. This division which has happened on the globe is creating conflict around the world. So what the world needs is to drop these differences, drop these fake identities and see this as one. So Shankara tells in Vivek Chudamani, Jati, Niti, Kula, Gotra, Durakam. Chuck it away. Jati, Niti, Kula, Gotra, Dhurakam. Nama, Rupa, Desha, Nama, Rupa, Guna. Nama, name, Rupa, form, Guna, qualities. I'm rich, you're poor, I'm better than you, I'm this, that, various qualities. And Nama, Rupa, Guna, Dosha. Even the small mistakes we keep seeing. Nama, Rupa, Guna, Dosha, Varjit. Desha, Kala, time and space, geographical boundaries. All that is unwanted. Take that away when you are sitting for meditation. Brahma, you are that Brahma, Tattvamasi, Bhavayatmani. Stay in that bhav of Brahma Tattvamasi. You are that Brahman. Now, if this knowledge is shared with the world, and this is the only knowledge which can remove the conflict. If people understand Advaita Vedanta, that these divisions are wrong, false values they are. They are not values, they are fake values, making this kind of divisions. If these divisions are removed, you and I are Brahman, Brahma Tattvamasi. The world, if it has to end the conflicts, these imaginary lines which we have created, has to be removed. So in this one verse, you see what is Advaitic vision. Jati, Niti, Kula, Gotra, Dhurakam, Nama, Rupa, Guna, Dosha, Varjitam, Desha, Kala, Vishayadi, Vartuyat, Brahma, Tattvamasi, Bhavayatmani. Does the color of the skin matter? Does the size matter? Does your wealth matter? No. If you can get that out, then we are one. These divisions unnecessarily existed. And we are holding on to them. So the world needs, I'm not saying tomorrow the world will become a world without boundaries. That's the long vision. But if you start working now, there is a possibility that the world can see itself as one huge family. So the recent G20, if you see, even 1 decade ago, 10 years ago, if someone had told you and me that the 20 nations of the world would have a Upanishad line as their motto or tagline, none of us would have believed. See, from Narayana Upanishad, this line is taken, that we are one family, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. And that was introduced to the whole world. And so who would have believed that in the World Summit of 20 nations, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam would be a theme for discussion, right as a motto. So the beginning has happened. And we have shown these kind of things whenever any other nation is in requirement or anything, we have helped. So this is that feeling. The imaginary divisions what we have created, Advaita philosophy alone can dissolve it. Because it's a philosophy which removes the concept of two, the concept of other, the concept of division. You know, what creates conflict is the concept of two, the concept of other. Unwanted divisions are creating conflicts. So people identify, I speak Telugu and you speak Hindi and someone speaks Tamil. Now, this is just a language communication, but it has become such a serious identity. Now, if these have to break, Advaita only can do, which tells you that and this are one. There are no differences. So this message is absolutely required to the world. And this idea, if we have those conflicts in the world, will dissolve. So it is, like we discussed earlier, it's much more important to take this philosophy to the world as best as we can.
So you very beautifully answered how Advaita can be dissolution of all these differences, how the Advaitic insight is we have readily available insight into ending conflicts and wars. But I have two major problems that the world is facing right now: poverty or the economic disparity, and the ecological issues that, you know, man as a race is right now facing. What do you have to say about these two problems?
See, you brought up two issues like economic disparity and ecology. economic disparity is a person is being trained in the present system of education to be selfish. This world and everybody there, out there, are for you to be conquered, exploited. Your need is very important, go exploit anybody. This seems to be the philosophy. So the value of Dharma is lost. It is so selfish that a person tries to exploit. A war is only an exploitation of another country. So this economic differences is because deeply a person is involved thinking that I should go and exploit and take what I want. Our idea of wealth was raise wealth based on Dharma. Dharmic values, with that you raise wealth. That's why it is for Purushartha. Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. Artha comes after Dharma. With dharmic values, go and raise wealth. Increase your prosperity. This is Dharma. Now, today what happens in the world, the philosophy seems to be in most parts of the world, and the economic schools also somewhere or other go around that way, where the means is not perfect. They are looking at the end. So for them, whatever the end they want, means is okay if they compromise. Means justifies the end. Is wrong. So the means should be dharmic and the end should be dharmic. Now this dharmic value is lost. Now when will it come dharmic? A mother will not exploit the son.
Sure.
The son will not exploit the grandson. Among the family members, you are not going to exploit. Why? Because you feel they are mine. Somewhere you have identified with them as yours. So this identification of you with them as mine doesn't give you room to exploit. But your neighbor is other. You go exploit. So this feeling of other, that you are different from me, is exploitation. Mine versus yours. Ours versus them. This is the division created. If we become little spiritual, we understand them is not separate. So what I need, let me get, let it be based on Dharma, not on exploitation. Dharma becomes a value. So in the economic conflicts which are there, which you raised, if we refocus on Dharma and also talk to people what karma is, then people will be very careful, because if I do something, it's going to come back to me. So we need to be very careful. See, I'll take a little time to go into this particular topic, because I want to tell you something what Shankara said. On the second chapter of the Gita, there is this verse which says, Yoga Karma Sukhaushalam. Dexterity in action is yoga. Skill in a particular action is yoga. So it could be an archery, a person is a perfect archer. Or it could be someone playing a sport and he's perfect to the top of it. Skill in that. But Shankara doesn't stop that as skill. He goes further and he says, your action should be to the best of your ability. The best in that action you should come. That is skill. And also the action should not bring you karmic results.
Beautiful.
That is karma kaushalam. Yoga. He says yoga, Shankara's definition of yoga there is perform action to the best of your ability. The action should have all the skills needed and it should not have a karmic reaction. That means the action has to be performed with the spirit of karma yoga. That is, perform an action to the best of your ability. To the result and to the action don't be attached. And dedicate that action to the higher. If an action is performed this way, that action will not bind you. This he beautifully explains in the commentary of this verse. So you can go and find a good translation to read this portion of the commentary written by Shankara on the Gita. that an action should be at its best and also it cannot have a karmic effect. Karma. Now, if we bring this idea that you perform your action to the best of your ability, that is all dharmic, and from which what you get is fine, and doesn't have a karmic effect. If I go on, first I'm being attached to an action and then I exploit somebody, it's going to have a karmic effect. However brilliant you may be in that job, and there are some people who are really brilliant in there, but they are exploiting people, the karma comes back. So karma also should not come. So this philosophy that perform dharma to the best of the ability and karma cannot tag you. If this is brought back to our educational system, then the economics would be different. So in our culture it is Lakshmi Narayan. Wealth is Lakshmi, prosperity. Narayan is Dharma, spirituality. Dharma and wealth combined, Lakshmi Narayan, is our philosophy. If this is understood, we will not exploit people, rather we would share. When someone is not having something, we would share. Like in Tamil Nadu, there was a poet by name Suban Barati, who was also a great Advaita thinker. Very great poet. If he says, if one human is starving somewhere in the world, we should destroy the world. Because we have no business for someone to starve in the world. This Jagat should be destroyed if one person goes out of starving. Means such human beings, such is the population, and we can't look at another person as our own, and he starves to death. Look at the level of selfishness which is dominating. So economy should have value-based. When you bring in values, the concept of Lakshmi Narayan, and what Shankara said that you should perform your best and it can't have a karmic effect, then that action is skill, and that is called yoga. That way, if we bring in economic disparity, will be addressed. And second question you asked is, what is Advaita's role in ecology? Advaita tells anything that is created is divine. Creator and the created are divine, as I told you. If I see the rivers as divine, would I pollute it? If I see rivers are getting dried, and then I realize because we have chopped off the trees, as a result the mountains are becoming barren. As a result the rains are not coming. When I am aware of all this, I understand that I should start repaying back. So Shankara, whether in his slokas, be it upon rivers, be it upon mountains, be it upon nature, he has addressed them all as divine. They were divine even earlier. Prior to Shankara also Ganga was divine. Prior to Shankara also Narmada was divine. But Shankara had a very rare combination, a rare gift of philosophy and poetry together. That is not easily found. You find poets coming and going. They may not be Vedantic thinkers. And there are so many Vedantic philosophers who have served the community so beautiful. But Shankara had the gift of poetry and philosophy combined. And that's where he outstands. So in his poetry, the slokas what he has written, upon rivers, he has once again divinized them. Once again, the mountains and the rivers were all made divine. So he brought in that kind of a worship and brought back that sacredness which we need. If the world understands earth is not to be conquered but to be worshipped, then that is Advaita.
Yeah.
Right now the feeling is the earth is separate, I have to exploit it.
Yes.
The philosophy should be, Advaita is, earth is sacred, it's a living being like you and me. It has life, that's why we worship it. And it should be worshipped and not conquered. So the respect to the created, when it comes back, ecology would be balanced. If that respect is not brought back, that worshipfulness is not brought back, you think that was created for me to exploit. So a person goes on exploiting without giving. That's what we have done. In a youth camp, long back we had a youth camp, we invited a wildlife photographer to come and talk to the youth. And he was talking about what is photography and what wildlife, how you have to have patience and wait, and then you take a shot of an animal, all that. And then in the discussions went such a way that everything in the nature is useful, like a bee is required, a moth is required that way. So one person in one of the campers asked him, sir, to this photographer, asked him, sir, what is the use of mosquitoes for us? What use, what benefit do we have by a mosquito? I love the answer what he said. Why should man consider everything created should be useful to him? Just look at the ahankar, look at the ego, look at the overestimated self-importance that anything in the world should use me, should be useful to me, should benefit me. Why can't man, he put the question, why can't man think that he has been created for mosquitoes? You understand?
Right.
But our mind is, everything is created for me. This is wrong. Everything is divine. Let me connect with the divine. So this modern mind of exploring, exploiting, conquering should change. On the other hand, if we follow what Sanatana Dharma has said, worship, respect, serve. Why? That is also divine. Your havan, what you do, or the puja, what you do alone is not divine. Nature is divine. Take care of the rivers, that is as divine as the havan. Take care of mountains and trees, which is as divine as you do a puja. Shankara re-emphasized with a combination of poetry and philosophy.
Right.
So ecology can very easily be handled the moment mankind wakes up that created is as divine as the creator.
From what you told me just now, I think all the sustainable development goals set by United Nations and agencies like these peacekeeping institutions, why don't they take inspiration from Advaitic principles and from this thought?
My guru, Swami Mitrananda, when he came down the Himalayas and gave his first lecture was in Pune, and in that lecture he said, let Hindus become Hindus. Let Hindus become Hindus. What does he mean? That's his first lecture. After that, he started with Kena Upanishad. But his first lecture was, let Hindus become Hindus. What exactly did he mean by it? We Hindus are not aware about Hindu Dharma, Hindu Shastra. We Hindus are not aware. Most of us are Hindus by birth and by superficial practice. Hindu with Shastric insight is few. Okay, by birth we are Hindus and superficial practice we are Hindus. But in-depth understanding with a Shastric vision, Hindus are very less. Probably we were ruled for 1,000+ years, we were threatened every now and then, we could not establish. Our universities were destroyed, our Veda Padashalas were destroyed systematically. Our libraries were burned. You know the history of it, including the Gurukula system. So the source of knowledge, whatever was the source of knowledge, all were destroyed. So naturally the Hindu doesn't have access to the knowledge anymore like what he had in the past. So Hindus are not aware of Hindu culture. Hindus are not aware of Hindu Dharma. The only other way which sustained us, the Sanatana Dharma, was joint family. Someone who has learnt it in the family was handing it over to the next generation. And so in the joint family, the culture was still there. Like, let me ask you, You must be celebrating Deepavali. You must be celebrating Navratri.
Right.
Did any school teach you?
No.
Did you go to Chinmaya Mission or Ramakrishna Mission to learn it?
No.
No. So where did you learn this?
Family value.
You understand it's the joint family system which imparted. So from your grandmother now to your mother and to you. It's from the family traditions this has come. But family traditions can give you only gross rituals. The philosophy part of it would not be easy. So the philosophy, dharmic values of Hinduism, Gurukulas are not there. Vishwavidyalayas are not there, universities are not there, Padashalas are not there, all were destroyed. So the Hindu turned out to be a stranger to the Hindu philosophy. Today we are slowly waking up. There are many institutes which has come, which are teaching this Hindu values.
Yes.
And now we are waking up saying it should be part of our education system. You are asking about why UN has not taken it up, why other peace bodies have not taken it up. You in India, your NCRT books were not talking about it. In India, we have not brought it into our education system. How do you recommend somebody? So they would turn back and ask, is it there in your books? In your school, in your curriculum, in your university, is this a theme? No. So now with the new education policy, some of these ideas are brought in.
Sir.
So slowly born Hindu,
That.
practicing Hindu, by conviction one is becoming a Hindu and one is learning Hindu Shastra. When this gets established, we would be in a position to give suggestions to UN and others. Today we are not in a position, our philosophy is brilliant. So when we go there and we speak in such platforms, they have great admiration. They say, fantastic, yo, you guys are great. But they are not able to implement it because we have not even implemented here. So the moment it comes into our education system and we make the Hindu become aware of Hindu Shastra, Shastric studies reaches once again. That is basically saying reviving Gurukula, or at least the Gurukula curriculum. Reviving Veda Padashala curriculum. Universities. Now this is slowly happening, very at an early stage. Maybe in 2-3 decades, this would reach out more, thanks to very many organizations working round the clock. And like what you people do in Nyas. Nyas is a blessing that it has taken up Shankara and tried to promote Shankara's philosophy with proper research to the world. These are all the early signs that the globe will accept Advaita Vedanta soul. So unless we rectify within, set it right here, then the world outside will accept.
So there's a need that Advaitic insights and these Bharatiya Gyan Parampara based philosophies should reach the textbooks. What do you see as an implication if these subtle knowledges reach to children as young as 5-year-old, children as young as 10-year-old?
In today's education, let's say a person takes 20 years to become a postgraduate.
Right.
Yeah? 14 years of schooling, LKG, UKG, and then 12. 3 years of graduation, 17. 2 years of post-graduation, 19. After 20 years of study, at the age of probably 22, you enter into the world to take up responsibility of work, job, business, various things. Now, in these 20 years of your education, was there even at least one lesson in the curriculum which we went through, taught us how to handle anger, how to handle jealousy, how to handle guilt? Think, the 6 vikaras, Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsarya. Was there at least one lesson teaching us how to handle this? And these 6 are troubling us today too. We have been disturbed completely with this. And this is essential to handle. How to get out of guilt, how to handle success, how to handle failure. Because success also we should teach people how to handle. Because they get little success and the opinion of them changes and they think no end of themselves. So there are people who get little success and ruin their life. So we have not taught them how to handle success. Our education at one point of time was only that, which taught us between joy, sorrow, be balanced. Jealousy, no, you should not have, you appreciate the other guy. So we gave that kind of a knowledge, which is not there today. And as a result, if you see, wrong values were focused on the individual. So the individual grows up thinking everything is for me, everything is for me. So if this knowledge is brought in at 5-year-olds, if this knowledge is brought in at for teenagers, if this Advaitic vision is brought in the universities, suicides will never be there. Have you heard of Advaitic Vedantin committing suicide? No, no. A spiritual man? No, we don't. So, once you bring this knowledge, suicides will not be there because people will know how to live. Today, they do not know. They are taught how to make a living, not how to live. So, this knowledge will teach you how to live. Life will not be this stress. Life would be more as a play. You will look at it very differently. Like we say, what is this world? God's creation. Why did God create this world? Just a play, a leela. That's the best definition we have. God created this universe as a leela, as a sport. If God created this as a sport, why are you taking it so seriously? What is supposed to be a game, a play, a joke, a fun, you have taken it seriously. So we have ended up in a big mess. Our education is present day, what we learn is only funeral. We have done a play called Death, where we keep showing funeral again. And then a wise man, that's about Nachiketa and Yama, that's the play called Death. So the wise man will come, and when it is funeral, he will come and replace the words. Same words, he'll reorganize them. Real fun. Funeral, you can reorganize it as real fun if you are an Advaitin. Because you know, when the death is a joke, you really don't die. So you learn to evolve to that point. So this education helps human to evolve to divine. Then it is not funeral, it's real fun.
Case.
So this education is denied right now. We don't have access to it. If this is brought in, orphanages will not be there. Old age homes will not be there. Children will be taking care of their parents with love and respect. Suicides will not be there. Broken homes will not be there. Because you can't. What is so difficult to adjust? Today we are so individual, it is so difficult to adjust. See, nowadays when we do camps, one of the things which was not there in 80s, which is people insist on it today. In 80s when we had a camp, or even early 90s, nobody will ask for single occupancy. Well, say 4 people have to be in a room, ashram, fine. Today people say single occupancy. Give me 1 room. Because to accommodate someone else is so difficult. That individual we have become. To see someone else as part of me, my own brother, is difficult. The education has done so individual that even in Advaita camps, people will say, give me single occupancy. There's no question of accommodating. From there we have to start. You understand? So the education as such has not helped us at all. It is a funeral. If Advaita comes inside, it is real fun. Okay. Then these broken families, suicides, drugs, all will not be there. I want you to think, in this world, if you remove organizations like Gayatri Parivar, Ramakrishna Mission, Chinmaya Mission, Art of Living, Amma, Amritanandamayi, Baba Ramdev, Satya Sai Baba, Ramana Rishi, Shankara Mats. You go on like this. If you remove these organizations, how many more suicides would be there?
Multiple.
How many more broken families will be there? How many more depressions will be there? How many more drugs will be there? Now these organizations are preventing it. They are handling it at the cost level. The effect doesn't even manifest. You don't understand that. The world doesn't understand how much these organizations have saved from deterioration. When it is deteriorated, someone is in drugs, you bring him out, it is noticed. But you have prevented somebody going into drugs, it's not noticed. So most of these organizations are working at the cost level. So the effect doesn't manifest. So we have to understand. So those who are working at the cost level, the effect doesn't manifest. Now if this knowledge comes to the schools and universities, these negative effects will not be there. So a child will grow up happily, learning to adjust, living life to their full potential without despondency, desperation, no suicidal tendencies. You will have a healthy human being. Because in education, you need to bring Paravidya, Aparavidya. When you bring Paravidya and Aparavidya combined, a person is educated. Only Aparavidya, you leave all these aspects. That turns out to be what the world is. If you want to change that, Advaitic vision, Vedantic principles have to come into schools. Like Gurukula, it should start when you're very, very young.
I think Advait, if it reaches to these young children, would be a magic touch, drawing from what you just said. How do we do that? How do we reach out to these children who are young but in despair about their life? How do we reach them?
This is a very different art of teaching. I have adopted a method which worked, and we have seen the results of it. We teach young people the way in which they like learning it. So basically it's a very strong formula. I teach them what I want, but the way in which they are learning it. So if I want them to have reverence for Shastra, I will not make them sit down and say, okay, I'm going to teach Shastra, now learn verse by verse. That comes only when you fall in love with Shastra, you want to sit and learn that way. Till you fall in love with Shastra, you're not ready to sit there and learn. So we did a play called Death, where we made Nachiketa and Yama discuss. But Nachiketa was from ISRO, he's an ISRO scientist. And Death is that one character called Death, Yama, he comes. And now I've told I want to play, and these are what are the possible deaths we can see? Childhood, early age, suicide, natural death, accident, like different types of deaths. And what is death? Is there something called death? Or is it something beyond death? These things I want them to learn. So I told these people, this is a book, Katha Upanishad, 8th chapter of the Gita, and 2-3 verses from Bhaja Govindam, Punarapi Jananam, Punarapi Maranam. We put all this and said, this is your research content, come up with a story. Now, I did not teach them Katha Upanishad. When they had doubts in Katha Upanishad, they came to me. But the team was working on research to create a play. Now, they like theatre, they like acting. So we used theatre to inspire them with philosophy. Upanishad Ganga, you must have seen.
Yes.
We used the film world to reach out, the small screen to reach out. So we must adopt methods which can inspire them. And once they are inspired, they'll come back to the traditional method of learning. But till they are inspired, you need to adopt different methods. So for us, that play like Death worked brilliant. And people remember the lines of the play as something transforming. The last line of the play is when the hero walks away, it would be like a coward dies daily. The brave, the courageous die only once. The wise never die. Now this is just 3 lines. The coward dies daily. Now you understand, if you're a coward, you're dying every day. They remember that because it is their language. And the courageous die once. Only once they face death and they're dead. The wise never die. Now the children picked up on this line. It was their language, but Upanishadic spirit. It is an Upanishadic idea, but presented in their language. So we should adopt better methods, creative, because the generation has learned that way. So if we have to use artificial intelligence for teaching, we should. We have to use science and technology for teaching, we should. So we must adopt these methods by which the student of today is inspired to turn his mind this way. And once he comes to a particular point of growth, then we introduce him to this is the traditional way which is more effective in learning. The student is more apt, more ready now to do it. When he is not ready, I try to bring something. There's a gap. The people who are working in the field of spirituality have to fill up this gap. I believe strongly the traditional approach is the best. But to get them to that, you need different methods. So there we have to use every possible technology, every possible method, what they'd like, doing it. And it should be like, let us say, we go to Kedarnath, Badrinath as a yatra. People will come, Chardham yatra. Those who are interested, who has respect will come. But if you say, let's do a motorcycle rally to Himalayas. Now those uninterested guys turn up. They also come. Now right from Haridwar, you can teach them about Ganga. You go to Rishikesh, you can teach them about yoga. Then you go to Devaprayag, you can teach about Shankara, what he did there, the Raghuram temple. Then you go to Srinagar, you can talk how Shankara stopped Narabali. Then you come to Rudraprayag, what it means to him. What did he do in Kedar and how he went away, and what he did in Badrinath, how he found the idol. You can take them to Narad Kund. All these guys have come on a bike. Absolutely uninterested chaps are with you. And now they are all getting introduced to philosophy. Now once they are interested, next time you call them to an ashram, you sit them and tell Shankara Digvijayam, they will follow. So that early stage inspiration needs little focus. Once you are able to get them the way in which they like, after that they listen to you whatever you say.
You've told us how the Advaitic insight, if reaches youngsters and children as young as 5-year-olds, it will change the entire perception that they have for the world and of their self, which ultimately is one and the same. How do you think Advaita can solve the problems or the issues that the youngsters these days are facing?
One, today, the modern psychology says, rarely we come across somebody who has not thought of committing suicide. That's what like today's psychiatrists are saying. Most of them at some point of time contemplate about it. That means somewhere the education has let them down completely, not able to cope up with life. And once we bring in Vedanta into their life, the opinion about themselves change and they regain their strength. Like the Prasthanatraya, 3 books.
Please.
The Brahma Sutra, the Upanishads and the Bhagavad Gita. Brahma Sutras guide you into the higher. Upanishads again speaks like metaphysics, quantum physics, taking you to the higher. Bhagavad Gita teaches you how to live here and then go to the higher. Okay, so Gita is a story of an youngster. Arjun is a young man who was looking forward to life and then got into despondency, dejected. The first chapter of the Gita is called Arjuna Vishada Yoga, Arjuna in depression. Okay, so the first chapter itself was called Arjuna in depression. That depressed mind was given a way of life, showed a way and lifted him up. So Gita guides you how to live here and evolve. This knowledge youngsters need, because it was a dialogue between two grahasthas. Two kings were sitting and talking, who were soldiers in a warfield. It was, Gita is not a dialogue between sannyasis. Upanishads you will find a sannyasi sitting there, students going and asking. So it's a conversation of a person who has come to seek and finding a guru to guide. Okay, but Gita is two grahasthas talking. So it's a very apt book for young people. So Gita for Yuva should be a project. Take this message across. And once you take the message of Bhagavad Gita to the youngsters, and there you start explaining the Gita, how Vivekananda spoke about it, how Gurudev wrote commentaries on it, and what is Adi Shankara's commentary on the Gita, there you pick up, it would be transforming. Like for example, when Krishna tells Arjuna, Uttishta Parantapa, wake up Arjuna, enough. You have been like this as a victim, get up, enough. Now to read Shankara's perspective on it, Vivekananda's perspective on it, Swami Mitrananda's perspective on it, and other big teachers' perspective, now that would be a fantastic content of transformation, what they speak about. So we need to bring this education, then there is a high possibility of changes. Unless this knowledge is not brought in, most people will live their life far below their potential. What does Vedanta do? It teaches us to live life to the full potential. Now, this is the spiritual part of it. World at large, India particularly need a youth icon who they can connect and be inspired. Unfortunately, people have not seen Shankara as a youth icon. So that should be one of our responsibilities, to bring, saying that he was a teenager. When he wrote commentaries, he was a teenager. When he went and debated people, he was a teenager. When he renovated temples and re-established, he was early, early 20s, youth. And a young man went across the country 4 times, convincing people, you must start looking at his organization skills, you must start looking at his communication skills, you must start looking at his debate skills, you must appreciate his vision. This kind of youth icon. See, there are people who have lived 70, 80 years and done brilliant work. Be it Gurudev or be it Kalam, they've all done their job. But someone very young, even Vivekananda was still 39, Shankara went at 32. So somebody so young, the youngsters need a role model, a youth icon. So if we all can manage to bring Shankara to the youth, like I said, Gita for Yuva, it should be Shankara for Yuva. So you bring his vision, and here is a role model, here is an icon who has done these things, that will work. Because he was such a young man when he left. So at prime of his youth, he walked away. So that is something which people should know. When you give the right role model and present him correctly, then the youngsters would emulate. So one is Gita, the philosophy, and one is Shankara's life, his work. If things like that are made, I think the youngsters will have something to fall back. Today they do not know. See, to a large extent, people have connected with Vivekananda. Many places when you go, people do speak youth icon, Vivekananda, because that was of recent times. But somewhere in the process, that space was never occupied by Shankara. That space where youth look up to should be, like we should introduce Shankara there. Then there would be a vision of understanding a young person. What is Advaita philosophy? What was he talking? What was this? What was his dynamism? What was his stand on different issues? How progressive he was. Like, what was his vision and how, probably people see Shankara as a very orthodox perception, maybe. Orthodox, conservative, maybe projected that way. Actually, he was very, very progressive. He was not confined by any rules. Like when his mom passed away. As a sannyasi, he went and he did the last rites because he gave his word to his mom. He was not bound by any rules. Now, that was very progressive. Like that, if you see, like when he met Chandala in Kashi, Shankara comes out and says, whoever has this knowledge, I would consider him as my guru. Chandalostu dvijostu. Anyone, whoever in the world has this kind of a clarity of the truth, be it a Chandala or be it a Dvija, he should be considered as a guru. Now that's very progressive. The vision, saying whoever has that knowledge, look up to that guy. Now these aspects of Shankara is not even heard. We need to take across. So then when they like the man, they'll come to his philosophy. And like what has happened in Nyas, this Murti which you see, 108 feet, don't you think it should have been 2000 years ago? True. For a person like that, it has come up now. So I see this as a very big step taken in taking Shankara to the youngsters of the country.
Right.
So the movie we are making, the technology we are using to depict his life, and all that, in whatever is coming up in Ekatma Dham, all that I think would inspire more people. And one more thing we need to do, once we have established this, we should open up Ekatma Dham as a school educational tours. When you bring youngsters there, they see his life and they see his work. And that can inspire them. So the message of the Vedanta philosophy, Bhagavad Gita, has to reach to the youth. Then their life would certainly change. Because that teaches you how to live, and you live with strength. Today, mentally people are weak. And that's why small things trouble. My guru, Swami Mitrananda, used to say, what is problem, what is situation? A weak mind will look at situation as a problem. A spiritually strong mind will look at even problem as a situation. For Krishna, Arjuna collapsing was a situation, not a problem. He has said, okay, collapsed mentally, I can bring him out. But for Arjuna, the war itself was a problem. For Krishna, it was a situation. A spiritually stronger mind will look at life, various things that life offers as situations. That means you are a master of yourself, not a victim, not a weakling. So, dynamic spirituality is required. So, Gurudev Swami Mitrananda used to say, harnessing youth potential through dynamic spirituality. So, first thing we need to show to the world, to the young world, is Shankara is a dynamic spirituality. Not a passive spirituality, sit under a tree and, he was dynamic, man of action. So, harnessing youth potential through dynamic spirituality, if we can work around that, then youngsters would take to spirituality, their mindset, everything will change, and they will look forward to life. Unfortunately, today, people think, spirituality is for when you become 16, retired, vanaprastha stage, you need spirituality. At 60, why do you want to learn how to live? When 60 years have gone through a nightmare, You need to learn when you're young. So that's important.
Yeah. I have a question, just a subsequent question to what you've mentioned. We have somehow put a lot of reverence with his name, attached to the name Shankara, that we often overlook the fact that he just lived for 32 years of age. And we also not give due diligence or credit to a lot of aspects of his personality, like the youthful, dynamic spiritualism that you were talking about, the journey, the arduous journeys that he took, the debates that he won, the philosophies that he established, the social reforms. I would like to ask you, could you please briefly touch upon these points, the hidden aspects or not so known, not so popular aspects of his journey?
I've read a quote of my guru on Shankara.
Huh?
Gurudev called Shankara spiritual general. Okay, that he is the spiritual general we need to obey and follow. He also said it'll be beautiful to look at him as a human. So we are able to connect. It inspires us to walk. When somebody like Shankara or Vivekananda, when people like that walk upon this earth, it is quite natural for the people to see and put them in a pedestal as avatar. Okay. When you put them in a pedestal as an avatar, is writing commentaries difficult for an avatar? Is debating difficult for an avatar? Is walking 4 times across the country difficult for an avatar? So, no doubt, it is divine manifestation. We see it. But you must see it is the human who evolved to divine and who did this. Then there is a great connect, inspiration. So it will be more better for young people to understand that he was just like any other youngster, any other child, but was very sharp, did these things, walked around, convinced people. A human doing this, Shankara's life will be in awe. And when we call him an avatar, that awe will miss. Because what is difficult for an avatar? The respect for an avatar should be there. Because the work he did, the others cannot even do. So we look at him and saying, come on, this is divine. But divine incarnate walking around, then for all of us would be, that's divine. No. The beauty of Shankara was a human who went around, did this. Then you see a human who reached divine. A born person attained Shiva while living. Now that's the journey which will inspire. So human who transformed to divine and went around doing this work is a great inspiration. So we need to present that way. So when we say he is an avatar coming down, it is difficult. That's why Gurudev said, more reverence would happen, awe would happen, when you see him as a human who walked. Okay, so this is one. Second, at every point of time when the culture was degraded, he came forward as all-inclusive. All-inclusive. So if someone was looking at a particular practice, he broke that out. He said, knowledge, everybody has a right. When people thought selected people only had right, Shankara brought that up. He said, knowledge, everybody has a right. And his works speak about it. Who's a seeker, anybody from any background with these qualities can seek God. Anyone having this. So it was a very, very forward-thinking person who went around telling that this whole world is one. Not many. The whole world is one. It's like, you see behind us, there's an ocean there. The water is one. Comes as wave after wave after wave, but it's only water. There are bubbles. It's still water. There's even an iceberg can come, still water. Iceberg melts, still water. It's water which has expanded, which has appeared in different forms. Wave, bubble, lather, like a small wave, big wave. It's same water. Similarly, he said, it is same truth, same divine, all over the world. People be anybody, anywhere, it is all one expression of divine. So he spoke about oneness of this entire universe, not just planet. So when we say oneness of the universe, it is all inclusive.
Right.
And unless, and that's truth. It's not a statement trying to make people morally good. It is a statement of truth that this whole thing is one. And he established that oneness. Connect this, all problems solved. Look at it that way, there won't be conflicts. So he was trying to show this entire universe is manifestation of divine. And which is a fact. He taught only that, he established only that. So even today, if a person has to transcend boundaries, transcend all differences, you have to identify with one, Ekam. So that was what was Shankara's work. He established oneness of the entire universe, be it a mountain or a river, a plant or a bird or an animal, it's all one. So unless when we see that one expansion of consciousness or one Atman or one Brahman, conflicts will not go. So if we can bring this idea to the world, how to end wars, your negotiation doesn't end. You negotiate for some time, war happens again. Try explaining oneness. Possibilities of wars would end to a large extent. Conflicts would end to a large extent. So the message of oneness has to reach the global audience. The message of oneness has to reach global leaders. More so it would come if we are more, as we discussed earlier, if we are more prepared here. If here we can bring that idea of one, then it becomes easy.
Yeah.
So oneness is the message. It is only one Atman which appears in many forms. It is only one Atman which is across the world. Be it of any colors, it's the same. That is what. I remember a parable. A young boy was wandering in an exhibition. And in that exhibition, people were selling, one shop was selling gas balloons, hydrogen balloons. So to attract people, every now and then the man who's selling will set one balloon free. So a red color balloon went up. So from far people could see there's a balloon, red, flying. And after some time he opened up a white color balloon and it flew up. Then there was a yellow balloon which flew. And then there was a brown balloon that also flew.
Yes.
One boy was watching all the while. He went to the person who was selling balloons and said, "Will the black balloon fly?" The shopkeeper understood what the child is thinking. White flew, yellow flew, brown flew, red flew. Will the black flew? Will the black fly? The guy understood. He said, "Son, of course the black will fly. It is not the color of the balloon, it is the gas which takes you up." And he set the black balloon free. Shankara was teaching this only. No? What is inside is the same. Don't get carried away by outer appearances. Man or woman is an appearance. It's a dress, vastra. What is inside is the same. Whether you are a Chinese, whether you are from some other continent, American, African, Indian, Arab, the content is one. What is inside is that. The colors of the balloons are different. The hydrogen that makes you fly is one. So he took this message and made people understand that we are all one. Don't go by the names and forms. You are carried away by the names and forms. They are appearances. But what is inside is one. So global leadership should take up to Shankara. Dialogues we should organize of that level. Young leaders should come up, probably international youth meet or something, where you bring people and discuss about oneness. Then the world would take to it. Slowly. Attempt. It's a big vision, but we need to do it slowly.
Yeah. So, you've spoken about how Shankara can actually be re-established, represented in the modern contemporary world. That reminds me of the great examples he's used in all his commentaries, in all his texts. Could you briefly touch upon those timeless udaharans and those examples that he's used to get the message of oneness across, right from Rajju Sarpa to what you just spoken about, the ocean and the water being the same.
Yeah.
Also, its reflection on the bhakti saints and the later saints and later traditions on it.
See, the examples which Shankara gave was like, you see a snake, it's actually a rope, but appeared to be a snake. So the snake is an outer appearance, but the reality is the rope. So the reality is Brahman, on which you're seeing a world. World, what you see as an interpretation. Okay, but actually it is this. Non-apprehension leads to misapprehension. Avarna vikshepa. This was very often Shankara discussed. Avarna and vikshepa. When I am not able to apprehend something, I superimpose.
No.
Like, you can look at me as a man. You can look at me as a disciple of Swami Mitrananda. You can also look at me as bundle of cells. There are standpoints, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you see it as different standpoints. So you can look at me as bundle of cells intellectually. And if you go spiritually, you can see this is a mass of consciousness, homogeneous mass of bliss. Same object perceived differently from different standpoints, and he was trying to remove that out. He was trying to get that away and saying, you are this truth, what you are. This he gave through snake and the rope, shell and the silver, post and the ghost, hundreds. And so many examples like pot. The pot which you make, you break the pot, the space is the same. When there is a pot, the modification for space has nothing happened. Space is the same. But you call it pot space. That's limitation. We are seeing it limited. Otherwise, space was. So he was a master of throwing examples.
Good.
And like I told you, these masters, when they come down to us, they come with that whole, like a compassion, love. With that, they descend to us. So they are all inclusive, the primitive end to the thing. So the way in which Shankara wrote books, slokas in admiring God is all the bhakti literature. Now what happens, when do you want to possess God? When do you want to acquire God? The example is very simple. First you have to know something. When you get to know, you start admiring. When you start admiring, that which you admire, you want to possess. Okay. So first to know, Shankara worked on making it know. Second, to admire. He wrote it in such a way that you admire. You admire Goddess Sharada, you admire Goddess Durga, you admire Dakshinamurti, Goddess of God, God of silence. You admire Shiva, you admire Vishnu, you admire Ganesha, Krishna, Rama, which he has not written. First is to know, second is to admire. And once you admire, you want to possess. Please remember, whatever you admire, you want to possess. That's why you are admiring. So he was a great teacher who made us admire all these Devi Devatas so that we want to possess them, take them, own them, acquire. Be with them. Because that's what admiration will do. When you admire something, you admire Vivekananda's vision, you want to possess it. You admire Gurudev's strength, you want to possess it. You admire Shankara's dynamism, you want to possess it. That which you admire, you want to possess. Someone has to make us admire.
Hate.
That's very important. So his sloka writing, his poetry, the description of gods, etc., made us admire. Led us to a great admiration. We want to possess. So the teachers who came in Bhakti literature later, not just Jnanis, they all understood that this is the best way to describe him. But yes, and many people were inspired. So it's just not action-oriented people, because he worked across the country, Karma Kanda, and what amount of work he did. So Karma Yogis are inspired by him. Jnanis, of course, are inspired because of the ocean of knowledge. And Bhakta, obviously inspired because his personal devotion to Goddess Sharada, Goddess Lakshmi, Shiva, Vishnu, the way in which he admired she was. So Shankara is a rare combination who has inspired Bhakti Marga people. He has inspired Jnana Marga. He has inspired Karma Marga. Karma Yogis, Bhakti Yogis, Jnana Yogis would be highly inspired by him. Because his literature, his way of life, his clarity, all combined that.
You've touched briefly on how the Advaitic thought, the philosophy, has reflections on the Bhakti, Jnana and Karma Marga. We've seen this across culture. So could you briefly talk about the reflections of Advaita Vedanta across cultures, Sufis and Sikhs and other cultures?
Yeah.
How there's a parallel, there's a reflection of this thought on that.
Bharat is a very ancient land. Earth itself is very old, 4 million years old. In that, life existed here so long. The science says Homo sapiens were there 50,000 years ago. So it's a very ancient earth. Many people have walked. And somehow here we had this knowledge preserved. In the cycle of birth, death, it must have come from earlier, whatever. We had that, and naturally the influence of it was everywhere. So when even Gautam Buddha came, when he took the message, people accepted his message across the globe. Most of the Asian countries at least have taken it up. So in the eastern side of the globe, and in immediate borders, if you take like Iran, which was once upon a time following Sanatana Dharma, then came Zoroaster. So if you see, there were these influences all over. So God in the eastern side, which includes Persia, etc., where the Sufi saints came, were all looking at life as born many a times. Reincarnation, they believed.
Right.
The eastern side did not believe in one book. The eastern side believed in many books, many births. So there was a lot of already existing similarity. So when you read Confucius and when you read some of our Shastra, you will find some similarities. Same way you will find in the way of practices of Buddhism, Hinduism, similarities. The destination explanation can be different. Okay, but common practices, because after all, Buddhism came from Sanatana Dharma. Buddha was there and he was practicing everything else here. So there were, you will find similarities. Sikhism obviously has come again. The Sikh gurus were all Hindus. Like Gautam Buddha was a Hindu who preached something different. Similarly, the Sikh gurus were all Hindus, born Hindus, and they taught. So there will be always similarities. In that, Advaita is the most acceptable one to everybody, because it speaks about we are not different. It speaks about divinity being within. Obviously, this Advaitic thought you will find reflecting in Tao philosophy, in Confucius philosophy, the Zen Buddhism, all these places. And Sufi saints also were speaking about oneness. influenced. They read, exchange various things. Like Darashiko wanted to translate the Upanishads into Persia. Obviously, when you connect into Upanishads and you do it, you have to be Advaitic. That way, there were a lot of influences, and you can see so much of Advaitic thought even in those literatures. Like, but some of it was not accepted. They were so direct Advaitic, like Aham Brahmasmi statement, Anal Haq, when the Sufi said, it is I am truth. It's like Aham Brahmasmi. Aham Brahmasmi would be appreciated by a matured mind who has reached to a level, oh yeah, you're right. When you say for someone else, it'd be contradicting. What do you mean saying you're infinite? You are finite. The mind is not ready there. So when a statement like this was made, with that area people didn't like. Al-Ilaj Manzoor made this statement. He was stoned to death for saying Aham Brahmasmi in his own language, Anal Haq, I am truth. So this Advaitic influence was certainly has spread to many people because people strongly believe that's the truth. Because after a point, you cannot refute it. And that's where Shankara's strength is. He has placed the arguments in such a way, he has placed the debate logics in such a way that it cannot be refuted. And it had a big, big influence across. And the world had so many similarities. Even if you go to Native America, the way in which they worship nature is completely different to the Abrahamic thought. The way in which they were admiring nature, looking at it as God. Most of the pagans were nature worshippers. They protected the environment by being a nature worshipper. So this is where it is. And what went out of control was the Abrahamic influence, where they went and said, Creator is separate from the created. You are born only once. And this is the only thing you need to believe. If you don't believe, you can be killed. These are all a very fanatic approach.
True.
But somehow it had an influence on the world. Prior to that, it was definitely a kind of an Advaitic influence only, most part of it. And many of these literatures, Aborigines, if you see, they're also in their own way Advaitic. The Native Americans were in their own way Advaitic. And similarities of Shiva particularly was there everywhere. Aborigines worshipped Shiva, Japanese worshipped Shiva. Big influence was there. So Advaitic thought cannot be refuted. Anybody who is thinking and has come of age in thinking have to appreciate Advaita. You cannot. Once you have reached a particular level in your own evolution, you have come to that point, then you have to appreciate Advaita. You cannot. There is no other option. People will come. Therefore, the scientists will also do it. There are poets who have also done it. But you come to a particular point, then you admire it. Because that's the only thing a ignited mind will be satiated with, will be fulfilled with. Because now you are on a quest to find. So once the person grows to a particular point, takes up to one's own original thinking and starts inquiring, then Advaita will be the only answer they'll find.
Right.
Other things will want to be.
Yeah. So I'll play the devil's advocate for a while. And all right, I heard you, and it was very profound that all these cultures, all these different religions and different countries have parallels to this thought. What about science? What is the take of science on Advaita, and is there a contrast or is there an alignment of both these thoughts?
Darshana in Bharat, philosophy, vision, 6 schools of thought. In that, darshanas have evolved and reached a particular point. It cannot be evolving further because it has reached the zenith. So, Advaita is that you have reached a point. There's nothing beyond. Science is still evolving. Science, people are changing their opinions for what they believed some time back to what it is. Science is still evolving. Let's say there was physics. When we were children studying, there was only physics. Then they said there is astrophysics. Then they came as metaphysics. The Only Dance, the Tao of Physics, all these books started coming.
Yeah.
They were metaphysics,
Right.
mystic and physics. And now they're talking about quantum physics. See, the physics has evolved step by step. So science is still evolving. And when you come to quantum physics, I'm not an authority on quantum physics. I'm a student trying to study here. But certain statements, what they made, when you watch a movie like The Rabbit Hole, What the Bleep Do We Know? These are all science movies on quantum physics. When you watch those movies, certain statements which come out from them are stunning. And one of those quantum physicists who made a statement is 100% to what Shankara has said. He said, in the final analysis, observer is the absolute truth. Now, what do you mean by final analysis? Matter, atom, molecule, you break it, electron, neutron, proton, break it, quark, break it, God particle. This way, if you go, what is the final analysis? So they have come up to God particle, okay, which itself was not clearly defined. Quark was okay, but God particle, beyond thing. So after that, what? The quantum physics, this man says, observer is the final analysis. Okay. So beyond observer, there is nothing. Beyond consciousness, there cannot be anything. Beyond witness, there cannot be anything. The observer. So in the final analysis, observer is the absolute truth, which is very much parallel to what Vedanta says.
Well,
You neti, when you go, discard, you go to yourself. So we have to understand Advaita has reached. There is nothing more to go. That's why we call it realization. So it has reached its peak. Science is evolving. And quantum physics has come very close to it. So to me, someday, science will also touch Advaita. Today you're finding similarities, they'll touch. Then it will be like science has reached its zenith. There is no evolution after that. They have reached the point. Which the Shastras say, knowing which there is nothing else to be known, gaining which there is nothing else to be gained. Science will arrive on that, right, someday. Knowing which there is nothing else to be known. And both has to be one, only one. You come through the door of science or you go through the door of scriptures, knowing that there is nothing else to be known. Right now, science has got so much to know. Still trying. But they would arrive. Looking at what the quantum physicists are saying, I think science would not be too far in touching or coming close to Advaita. Right now we are taking up a stray statement, Einstein said, somebody said, but not like a book, like how we have Advaita philosophy. Science has not come. There are stray statements which are all indicating Advaita. So to me, science is still evolving. It will reach a point where it will be absolutely Advaitic. Maybe in a school sometime later they'll have Advaita science, like metaphysics, chemistry, science of Advaita, possible.
let's hope that what you just said turns into reality. That also reminds me of this wonderful initiative that the government of Madhya Pradesh, Department of Culture, is taking at Omkareshwar, the Jnana Bhumi of Adi Shankara. The initiative is called Ekatma Dham. So could you please briefly talk about that initiative?
The name itself was so beautiful, Ekatma Dham. Dham means abode of oneness. Such a very inspiring name. It is an abode of oneness and very aptly chosen name for a very aptly chosen location. Shankara studied there. His knowledge, transformation happened with his guru Govindapad in Omkareshwar. So to calling it Ekatma Dham is very apt. And what is the purpose, objective, vision of Ekatma Dham? A statue of 108 feet with a lotus of 16 feet. And then there's that lotus stem, like a pedestal, so that is another 72 feet on a hill. Means from any corner of the globe you can see it. You can watch it. That will be visible. I mean, from Omkareshwar, that would be visible in any corner near that Narmada Tat and all that. Now, an institution of this high stature is important. And the vision of bringing different teachers of this parampara, of various schools of sannyas, whether it is Vanam, Saraswati, Tirtha, bringing all of them, and that regular program which happens there as Vyakyanamala, where you are calling people and making them talk on Advaita philosophy, and this is telecasted across. Something like this has never happened. Everyone was talking on their own, but on a single platform, bringing different schools of sannyasis, initiated by Shankara, to come and give them topics to speak and reach out to public is beautiful. And a towering monument like this was due. Like, see, when Vivekananda rock came up, it was not easy. There was a lot of struggle for Eknath Ranade to do it. The government at that time was not willing, whether it is state or central. Eknath ji has to push a long way. At that time, I remember my teacher, Gurudev Swami Mitrananda said, why we need a Vivekananda memorial there. That will bring people to Kanyakumari because it's the tip of the country. People will come, they'll connect with the philosophy, vision, what he did there. And it has become a very, very powerful spiritual tourism. People come there, yatris go there. Similarly, in another article, Gurudev Swami Mitrananda said, Shankara should be established where his birthday is celebrated as a national holiday. That means that people have woken up to that. There's a very lovely article where he says that his birthday should be celebrated as a national holiday. So a monument of this stature, 108 feet, etc., with a knowledge-based institute, which shows his life and works through modern technology. And to relax in the evening, to be meditative, you have that beautiful fountain which talks about Tattvamasi Mahavakya. So these are all big attraction, and I'm very sure Omkareshwar, this particular Ekatma Dham, once the project is complete, like I earlier suggested, we should make it a school excursion, bring students there. So that facility, of course, is there for people to be accommodated. All that is there. So when they come, it will be a school camps going on, and evening public coming there. It will be a seat of knowledge. So I think after Kashi, Omkareshwar would be again a seat of knowledge. And Ekatma Dham, the size of the project, the vision of it, yes, and for people to see, and very sure, there are so many seekers of Buddha. They all go to Bihar, Bodh Gaya, from Sri Lanka, from Thailand, everywhere they go. That's their abode, Gautam Buddha. I am very sure Ekatma Dham will be the abode for seekers of Advaita. The size and the stature what we have done, there will make people come. And the movie which we are making, you were part of the discussion so many times about the movie, and we are keeping global audience in mind, not just the audience of Bharat. We are keeping global audience in mind. So I think in the coming years, there would be a lot of insights about Adi Shankara, his vision. And Ekatma Dham is the manifestation. So it's like, in the Puranic literature, we hear about Mount Meru. So to me, this would be like that kind of a peak for Advaitans to connect and to promote Advaita. Never was it institutionalized, this vast vision. Everybody was doing in small way. But here, it is like connected almost all Hindu Advaitic organizations together. So there is a sloka in the Gita where Krishna says, Sutre Maniganaiva, the invisible cord which holds the beads together. Ekatma Dham has become that Sutre. And different institutes are the pearls. So Ekatma Dham is connecting various Advaitic organizations together. Now that's the vision. When all those, and plus the research center which is coming up, obviously anything coming out from Ekatma Dham on Advaita philosophy and on Shankara's work in the future will be considered as Praman. And that kind of an authority is required. So that's a big, huge work. I'm very happy that government of Madhya Pradesh has done this. It was 2000 years old. It should have been much before. If nothing, at least it should have happened in 1947. So looks like the